Today, I want to talk about how stress affected my body over the past year in 2023. So, going through 2023, it was the most stressful year of my life. That's when I was doing 90 units of value add. So, I was renovating my 26 unit, I was renovating my 20 unit, and I was in the process of selling my mobile home park, all while working full time, all while trying to create content on YouTube. So, I was juggling a lot of balls, right? And I have a super long commute as well. I commute 2.5 hours in Southern California, which is very typical. And so I'm doing a lot of things, right? Juggling a lot of balls, and I was under a lot of stress, like a lot of financial stress, a lot of physical stress, a lot of emotional stress, just every form of stress. This was probably the most stressed I've ever been. And I want to talk about how the stress affected my body, like me personally, right? So I'll start from the top and head down to the bottom, right? So the first way that stress affected me was it clouded my mind. So every day I felt like I was in survival mode. Every day it was like a fight or flight situation, and I would overreact to a lot of little stressors. Right? Like let's just say someone cut you off in the freeway, and before I used to be very zen about it. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Maybe they're having a bad day, but when I was really stressed, my mind was very, cloudy. I would get kind of angry by that to be like, hey, like, why are you cutting me off? Like, a lot of little things would get under your skin and you'd be more frustrated and have lower patience compared to if you are not stressed, right? So, my mind was cloudy. It was harder for me to think. It was harder for me to critically think. And it was harder for me to be mentally creative, right? So I didn't have peak mental state, right? Like it was very hard for me to think a few steps ahead because my mind was so cloudy. I kind of describe my mind felt like if you ever had COVID brain fog, it feels exactly like that. Like it's kind of cloudy, you're sluggish, you can't think, there's no creativity, you can't solve problems, you just get angry, you're impatient. So when you have that mindset, you're not going to be successful, and you're not going to be happy, or not you're not going to be someone fun to be around, right? So my mind was very cloudy, lost creativity. So you're just in survival mode. You're not really in like build mode, right? So that's my mind, and I would say like it was harder to control my emotions. It was harder to control my stress, and I just wasn't very like fun to be around. So that's my mindset. The next area of how stress affected me was my mood. So I was probably in a slightly depressed state, and have a video talking about how I helped overcome that depression in that depressed state or that lower mood. But I basically didn't want to do anything. I didn't feel joy from anything, and I just felt like a zombie, or like a potato, for lack of a better word. I felt like I was just going through the motions of life. I didn't really have joy. I was kind of indifferent. I was tired, despite getting a lot of sleep. Didn't have motivation to really do much, and just felt like I was like on autopilot, right? Like wake up, eat, go to work, go home, sleep, like repeat. On the weekends I just lie there, not do much, right? So I was like just very low mood, low energy. Next, my eyes, like when you're under a lot of stress, you'll feel that there's pressure in your eye. I felt it in my eye, and it made it harder for me to see, like up close, because my eyes are always like focused to look further away. So my eyes felt this weird pressure, and you sometimes see like these like little black spots, and that actually is a sign like when you're stressed, right? Next is my mouth. So when I'm stressed, I grind my teeth, and that grinding overnight, it sounds like you're chewing on ice. And what it does is it actually creates so much tension that actually gives you a headache. So there's a nerve that connects your mouth to your head, and if you're constantly grinding it due to stress, it's going to create a headache in the morning. So it created this like big bad headache on my head. It felt like there's a rubber band over my head, and that's called a tension headache, right? So that was the effect there. On my stomach, I would say that I wasn't as hungry. I basically, my bowel movements were not as regular. Like when you're under a stress state, you might, let's say you're used to going to taking a number two, to keep this PG, on a daily basis, but under stress maybe you're going every like 4 to 5 days, right? Because your body's just so stressed, right? Like when you're stressed, you're fight or flight. When you're relaxed, you're rest and digest, and that's when you're under resting and digesting, that's when you will do number two. So, that increased. The next one is I got sick more often, right? So when you're under a lot of stress, it releases a lot of cortisol, which causes inflammation, which weakens your immunity, which then increases your chance of getting sick, right? So I was getting sick, and this is during like COVID too. So I'd get sick more frequently. It took me longer to recover. So that's that. And in terms of like my body, like I would work out, and I noticed that like when I was under stress, I'd work out to relieve stress, but I noticed that like it would take me a lot longer to recover from a workout. Like let's say I'd work out, I used to be sore for like maybe a day or two, but under stress, it took me like 3 to 5 days to recover from one workout, right? And then my workouts weren't even as hard, weren't even challenging, because I was under a lot of stress. So, once going through this, like it was kind of crazy. Like I could feel the stress move through my body. Like it literally started from top down, and I was like Googling every day, like, what does stress do? How does stress affect your body, right? This cortisol, like I said, causes a fight or flight system. It causes inflammation. It can raise your blood pressure. So there's a lot of downstream effects. Like I'm a pretty healthy person overall. And another thing too is like under a lot of stress, if you look at your face, this is really weird, but you just feel like inflamed. Your face just feels puffy, poofy, inflamed. My brain felt poofy, it felt inflamed. My stomach felt poofy, inflamed. So I think I'm just in a very inflamed state, and this is probably caused by the stress and caused by the cortisol. So once I realized all this, I'm very action oriented. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do about this stress, right? Like, how am I gonna reduce this stress? So what helped me really reduce the stress was do a miracle morning, right? So I'd be in complete silence, do some stretching, gratitude journal, reflect on what I'm grateful for, reflect on what I'm thankful for, try to reframe problems, try to conquer my stress, because I'm the person who likes to take control of their own destiny. So like, I don't want stress to control me. I want to control stress. Obviously you're gonna have to exercise a little bit. If you're feeling anxious, just journal it, write it down. Light exercise, good diet, making sure you're getting a lot of sleep, taking your vitamins. I took a multivitamin and vitamin C. Vitamin C actually helps reduce cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So I would do that, and I would make sure that I wouldn't beat myself up if I was too stressed, because I have a problem where like I'm very hard on myself, right? Like I'm the hardest person on myself. I'm my own biggest critic. So because of that, I was just like, all right, I need to give myself some grace. I'm doing a lot. I'm going through a lot. So don't beat myself up, right? So that self-criticism had to like drop a little bit, and just giving myself more grace and more understanding and more empathy towards myself. And also what helped reduce stress is like just being around people that, love you, that support you. So, for me, I live with my girlfriend, and very fortunate that she loved me. She supported me through this time and helped reduce my stress, right? So overall, hopefully you learned about how stress will affect you, especially when you're scaling a large real estate portfolio, what the symptoms look like, so you're not surprised if you're going through the same thing, and then some strategies that I personally use to help me reduce my stress levels. So maybe you can adopt it, because it's going to be a season of stress, but I will say that you will come out of this a lot stronger of a person, right? Like for me, I'm very fortunate going through it, looking back and self-reflecting. Like my stress tolerance is a lot higher, my stress management is a lot better, and I'm still maintaining these healthy habits I just listed despite not being as stressed, right? Because I know that it makes me feel good, it puts me in a great mindset, puts me in a great mood, and I know that I'm ready to conquer the day and ready for the next challenge whenever that happens, right? So I still do these habits, I still keep them going, and I hope to stack them so that when I buy more real estate, I'm ready, right? I know exactly what to expect, how to prepare myself mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally for all this. So hopefully you found value from this video. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I'd love to answer questions. Please share this video if you think someone is going through a lot of stress and they need help. And hopefully to see you in the next video. Thank you so much.